All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, the new waste management rates workshop. And first, we're going to start with a moment of silence, and then please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. All right, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Here.
Councilmember Dixon. Here. Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
And Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, again, I'd like to thank you all for holding these workshops to get the public input, get information, questions answered, let the public voice their opinion so they have some help in making the decision. This is going to be a very difficult decision that we've all discussed. The original contract with Waste Management is well over 10 years old, had very limited rate increases into it, except for last year they went through the special exception process to allow for additional rate because of fuel costs and labor costs that have been escalating. Our contract, again, is several years old, over 10 years old, and it was time to rebid it. There were no more renewals allowed in that contract. So we went out and we put out a bid, and we only received one bid, and that was from Waste Management. What we did is we asked for them to provide us 4 different options for council and the public to consider. So currently our rate is just a little over $14 for twice a week garbage, once a week vegetation, and for on-call bulk. Recycling is not handled through any of our contracts. That's handled through a county-wide contract. So when you talk about the cost of this, it has nothing to do with your recycling or recycling issues. This is completely set aside for our municipal solid waste and vegetation and bulk. So the 4 options was if you did exactly what we do today in subscription service, it would be $42 a month. If you chose subscription service, is $27.75 a month. And if you do universal, which everybody would be included, twice a week, all the others being the same, vegetation and white goods and bulk would be $29.74, and universal once a week would be $19.45. Currently, the city has about 12,400 residential units. About 9,000, a little over 9,000 of them are part of the subscription service. They opted into the subscription service. One of the questions asked, well, if I'm gone for 3 or 4 months, can I stop it? Under subscription, you can. You can stop it during the summertime if you're part-time residents. What we found is, depending on time of year, it ranges between 200 and 400 people. Only 200 to 400 people actually put their subscription service on vacation or put it at a stop. The other, about 4,500 people pay through what we call auto pay. So about half the people, or almost half the people, are pretty much paying on auto pay. So we don't know, they may not know they can shut their subscription off, or they don't care. It's auto pay is easier for them when we're done. And so when we look at the contract rates, yes, they're a lot higher, and we anticipated that. They told us that when they asked for their original rate increase back in October of last year, September of last year. When we look at some of the rates in our community, Okeechobee is $27 a month, and it is mandatory, and it's the same as it's one and one, bulk garbage and recycling. Theirs actually includes recycling. City of Port St. Lucie just went out to bid last year, and they're $34.68 a month. It's mandatory. It's one garbage, one bulk, and additional costs for vegetation over 4 cubic yards. Palm Bay is $24.94, mandatory. They're 2 times a week, and then 1 time for the other items. And there's also a $10.31 for an additional cart. Malabar, these are the more recent contracts, $43.88, and that's two times for garbage, 1 and 1. The older contracts, in River County, they're in the same boat. They're going to go out to bid, but right now they're 1 and 1, and that's $10.75. And Fellsmere also is an old contract at $10.75. 1 and 1, they follow the county contract. So, and those are subscription services. I think, and so when we look at what's going on, and I think that Councilmember Dixon had mentioned it last one, there's like 90 some odd contracts that they have, and only like 9 of them are subscription contracts, and 3 of those happen to be in Indian River County. When we look at this contract, there's some stipulations in here that allows, if you go with one, let's say you go with 1 pickup, you have the option of purchasing an additional cart, as you had mentioned, for $10. It's around $10 for an additional cart, and it's a one-time fee, as she had mentioned. Also, there's no rate increases except for CPI, and we cap that at 3%. We all know what consumer price index is that now, but we've capped this at 3. Other items that are in this contract that weren't in the other contract, no matter which we use, there's fines if they don't complete routes. There's fines if they're continually missing customers, and then there'll be measures in place to monitor that. But we have some difficult choices in what we're doing in this contract. You know, it's inevitable, the cost of goods, services, everything is more money. And we just need to make a decision on which way we go. This contract does end in the end of June. And you know, if you go universal, it goes on your non-ad valorem tax bill, just like your stormwater fee. If it's subscription, it's kind of what you're doing now. And if you go universal, that means everybody is part of it. And if you go subscription, then that means, just like we do today, you can choose to opt in or opt out. Again, I feel this is a very difficult decision again, and can't say it enough. And I really want constructive input from our residents and from you all to give us some direction on how we go. You know, we need to make a decision. This is a big one. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Does anybody from the council, before I start giving some instructions, want to say anything? Or you wait?
I would, Mr. Mayor. So I would ask that as everybody comes up, we want to hear all of your opinions, all of your thoughts and ideas. But please, before you leave the podium, let us know your thoughts on how many pickups you think are good, and you know, whether you want subscription or universal, because those are the decisions that we have to make. We know everybody has concerns, and we want to hear everything you have to say. But please let us know those things so we can have a consensus and ideas of moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was going to say, is make sure when you come up, it's great to hear all the concerns from all of our citizens here in Sebastian, and we want to be respectful and listen to everything you have to say. But at the end of the day, before you leave, we'd definitely like to hear where you're leaning one way or the other, so we can get a good idea of where we're going to go at. So, anyone else? Mr. McPartland? No? Okay. All right, very good. What was that? Okay. We're going to go ahead and open it up to the public. Anyone wish to come forward and speak to us? Yes, sir. And if there's multiple, please make a line back there and come forward so we can move along at a decent pace.
Yeah, my name is John Sandos. I was here early this morning, but the question I have is that, or my idea, we go universal, 1 pickup per week. The reason why I mention that, my daughter lives in Bedford, Mass, outside of Boston. Her city is bigger than this city, and they have no problem with once a week pickup. And like you said, if people wanted additional barrels, they can get it for $10. Also, less wear and tear on the trucks if you're only circulating once a week as opposed to twice a week. Fuel costs will come down, so you could offset any future costs that could be incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, Nate?
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
And per your request, I'll let you know right away. I'm in favor of the subscription one time a week.
Your
Mark
name
that.
for the record, please.
I'm sorry, Nathan McCollum, 1448 Laconia Street. And he's also in favor of a subscription for one time a week. But I heard a lot at your 1 o'clock meeting, and I just want to clarify one thing. I've lived in this city for 50 years, probably have gone through 6 or 7 different trash collecting companies. You are never going to be happy with any of them. They are always going to miss pickups. There's always going to be problems, no matter who you get. There is not the perfect system. When I moved here, you called up whoever you wanted to, and that's who came and picked up your garbage. So no matter what you do, you're never going to find the perfect company. But I will say this, the increases are expected. I think everybody expected this, not this high. But this is also a company that put on a $20 million plus golf tournament in Phoenix, Arizona, and sponsors that. So they're not really hurting too much for money. I want to talk about the problems with Universal. And I want to give you another perspective to it. I know it seems like it's an easy solution. We're going to put it on there. It's a little bit cheaper. I think numbers were given that 70% of the city is getting garbage collection, 30% is not. That 30% may also be the seasonal people. Somebody mentioned about 200 or 400 people just doing it seasonal. It may be that none of the seasonal sign up at all. They just take their garbage to the dump. So I don't know how accurate those numbers are as far as seasonal versus non-seasonal. Universal, one of the things that I want you all to think about, I know that with the exception of Councilwoman Dixon, you all have probably been on different committees, and you will be, don't worry, it's coming, but you've been on different committees dealing with affordable housing. If you put this on the tax bill, this now becomes an additional expense to the exact people that we're trying to find affordable housing for, and to try and keep their costs down. If you keep it subscription, the people that are looking for the affordable housing, our police officers, our firefighters, teachers, this is an expense that they can choose to have. They may drive right by the dumps and drop their trash off. If not, if you make this universal or being put on the tax bill, you've added costs now to what we're trying to solve, and that's the affordable housing. And I wish you would keep that in mind, because the people that are looking for affordable housing are the same people that count every dime. And they're trying to decide, do I buy this week? Do I pay for this week? $233, that's the annual cost if we go with one pickup at 19 some odd per month. And that's a lot of money to a lot of these people. Also in getting loans and your escrow. This is going to be added to the escrow account. So now people that have mortgages, their escrows are going to go up annually because of the cost of this being on their tax bill. And I would like to be able to see where everybody has a choice if they want the service or not. If they don't want the service, that's great. If they do want the service, that's great. The city has gone both ways before with these kind of contracts. But I think we're to the point now, despite what the White House says, inflation is not over. Inflation is going to continue as long as people keep paying the prices. And that means they're going to have to cut things at home. Trash should not be something that should dominate somebody's tax bill. For those of us that have lived here probably longer than 10 years and have the homestead exemption, the tax bill for our collection is going to be higher than what we pay in city taxes every year. Just for trash, it's going to be higher than our millage rate and what we pay in millage, depending on the value of your house. Something doesn't sound right with that. I will leave you with this. And I'm not suggesting this at all. Please don't interpret that I've changed my mind, because I haven't. I am not in favor of universal. I am not in favor of putting things on the tax bill that don't need to be there. I'm not in favor of putting that burden on the citizens. But if you decide that you're going to go universal, I think it's incumbent to your citizens that you rebid this project, because if the other companies know it's going to be universal and they have guaranteed income, you're going to have competition. Right now, I would assume, I have nothing to back this up with, but I would assume that the other companies didn't submit bids because they don't want to do subscription service. But if they have a guaranteed amount of income coming in, they're going to bid, and we may see some other bidders. Whether we have time to do it, I don't know, 30-day bid, read it, that puts you in the middle of May to approve something like that. I don't know what the city's requirements are when you do bids. But I don't want you to think again that I'm supporting universal. I am not. But I want everybody to know that
let's do what we can for the citizens. Right now, it sounds convenient and everything, but we don't know where inflation's going. We don't know what's gonna happen to the cost of real estate and everything. People are gonna still have to make choices. They're making choices when they buy eggs. They're making choices when they buy gasoline. So let them make a choice about trash. They can go to the dump. They're already paying taxes for the dump on their county bill. They can go to the convenience centers, drop it off there. Or you may discover a new business may come up with Uber trash pickup here in the city. And we'll have Uber trucks going all over the place. Let me pick up your trash. Which is an economic incentive, which is what we're all for. More economic incentive, more business growth, right? Thank you all for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm available anytime.
All right, thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Hang on.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a city manager a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. City Manager, because Mr. McCollum did bring up an interesting item, and I'd like to clarify, with this being a workshop, it's important to go forward with all the facts. The RFP, as I'm looking at it in the document here, we actually went out with our recommendations, and that's what has been bid, correct? We recommended either subscription or universal as a thing, or was that how it was bid to us?
No, we asked for the differences because we didn't know where council was going, if they were gonna go with subscription or universal. We wanted to make sure we had all our options on the table so that you could make a decision based on what the prices were.
Okay, so universal was definitely one of the RFP options that were offered out.
That's correct.
To the companies, and we did not get any bids on those either, as
That's
the one
correct.
side is all. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, I'm Joanne White, and I live on Easy Street. And going through this today, I'm for the subscription, I think one time a week. I myself only put my garbage out one time a week because I hate to see the truck stop for just a small amount in my garbage can. And if people can get another can, if they need that much, that's great. And is it $10 just to get an extra can? They're not paying anything extra every month? Okay. And
Well,
the
I
other,
think it's 1031.
and that's a great cost, especially if they have a lot of kids. I mean, that's
Mr.
really
Mayor,
good.
that's not a correct number,
No,
1030.
I think I was told approximately 90.
Yeah,
$90 a
$90
year?
for an extra can.
yeah.
It's a one-time, it's not per year.
Okay,
Okay,
so
can we get
if
clarification?
they're.
Yeah, I need,
Yeah.
hang
City
on,
manager,
hang
we
on,
need to-
hang on a minute. I
That was the question I
need
asked.
clarification on that, for sure.
You pay for the can and then you pay monthly.
So she just clarified the cost of the cart. I was looking at these other ones. The cost of the cart is $90, but there's no additional pickup fee.
So if they're a resident for 5 years, they don't pay anything after the first $90?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. And I have to say, I love Waste Management. They have been the best. And when I've had to put yard waste out or have them pick up something extra and I call them, they are right on it. So I have no problems with Waste Management. They've always done a good job. And the other thing we're lucky about is that we have a dump that's close to Sebastian. So people who don't want to do subscriptions, want to do their own garbage, they really don't have to go very far to take their own garbage. So I'm for the one time a week subscription.
All right, thank you so much. Next, come on up, ma'am.
Nervous when you're up here. Hi, my name's Heather Wynn. I haven't lived here very long, but my parents have lived here for about 20 or so years. I am in favor of the one-time-a-week subscription service. And I did watch the meeting earlier today, and I just had a couple questions or points of clarification. It was made mention in the earlier meeting that the city could or would possibly have more leverage if we were to go with Universal. And I was just curious as to what the thought process was. A contract is a contract. A service is a service. Shouldn't matter how many people are subscribing or have that service. They should be held accountable for missed pickups, which I know everyone has harped on, so I won't even, go on to that. But another mention was, going out to restaurants, grocery stores. The difference is choice. If you don't like the prices at a store, you can go to a different store. You can choose to cook at home, not go out to a restaurant. For people on fixed incomes or, lower incomes who've, just moved here recently, talking about a tax increase is a very scary thing, especially when prices seem to go up everywhere else across the board. And one of the other questions I had is mention of the fees getting charged for missed or delayed pickups with the universal service. How would those get returned if they're part of our taxes? Would they be paid to the city and then rolled back to the citizens? How would that work? I mean, I know it's probably a small amount, but it just seems like a good question to have.
Well, hang on, let me get an answer to that question
Okay,
for
thank
you.
you, so I can breathe for a second.
So the fines would just go back into the general fund and offset our general fund revenue costs. There's no way to distribute it to this individual neighbor or that person, and then trying to do investigations and get that money distributed out would be very difficult. The difference, what we're talking about is not whether this contract, whether Universal would have more control. This contract over our current subscription contract has tighter controls over the current contract we have. So whether you go with subscription or Universal, this contract has a lot more teeth in it than the original contract, so.
So the fees for missed pickups and things like that would be regardless of, I'm not supposed to, sorry, would be regardless of universal or subscription services, correct?
That's correct.
So there's no benefit one way or the other as far as that's concerned.
Correct.
And then I know mention was made of the CPI and fees raising. We just had an increase in October of, about $5.60. What kind of planning can people do to say, 6 months from when this contract starts, the price is going to go up by another $5 and then another $5? For people who are trying to budget, it's something they want to know. And if a contract is a contract, we should know what the price is going to be. I think that's all I had to say. Thank you. So again, subscription, 1 time a week. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, come on.
Hey y'all, I'm Pat Meskel. I live on County Lane. My first question is, if nobody else bid, did anyone reach out to find out why?
Yes.
And can you share?
Mr. Carlisle?
So Waste Pro, they did not want to do an audit of the commercial businesses. We did not have the information for them to know how many times each restaurant got picked up. That's something that we didn't have that information, so they didn't want to bid that. And they had mentioned they wanted to do rear load service, or could they do rear load service and we're automated because that's the most efficient way to do it. And then Republic, there were some similar things. They actually asked to not have to bid the whole contract originally, so it was some of those issues that they had.
Thank you. What do our neighbors pay?
I can't hear you, ma'am.
I'm sorry, what do our neighbors pay? What does Vero Beach resident pay? What does a county resident pay? Where are we? Are we at parity? What are we looking at?
No, they have their own contracts, and we have a list in our paper here where Mr. Carlisle went over earlier what Indian River County pays, Grant Vacaria, Malabar, Palm Bay, City of Port St. Lucie, and the City of Okeechobee. And, for example, Okeechobee is $27.73, and that's for mandatory 1-1-1 garbage, recycling, and yard waste. Mm-hmm. And likewise for the City of Port St. Lucie, they're at $34.68 for 1-1-1 as well. Palm Bay is $24.94 plus $10.31 per additional cart, and that's Republic, and they're mandatory at 2-1-1.
Okay.
Malabar is $43.88. Waste Pro has that, and that's a mandatory of 2-1-1. Grant Vacaria is $26.99. Waste Pro at 2-1-1. Indian River County is $10.75. Their subscription 1-1 garbage, 1-time garbage pickup per week. So,
I was going to mention that, Mr. Mayor. Indian River County and Fellsmere piggybacks off Indian River County's contract.
Right.
And they go out for bid in 2025, so they're in a long-term contract as well. So they're actually looking to see where we end up so they can figure out what they're going to do in Indian River County. So their prices are cheaper for today like ours are cheap today, but theirs are going to go up very similar to ours once the contract goes through.
Thank you. I did look at Waste Management's financials today, and They're not the best at debt. They do have a high debt load, but they've also got an increasing stock price and an increasing value, which shows that they are a stable company. To give you an example, back in March 8th, 2019, their stock was selling at $98.95. Today, 10 minutes before close, it was 150.58. So they are making a profit off of this, and it is increasing. My thoughts on this, I'd like to see if we're going to go this route, that it's subscription only. It's not on a tax bill, because there are too many people that in our city that are on fixed budgets, that you're going to squeeze to the point that they're going to decide, do I eat, do I get my medication, or do I pay this? So they need to have that option. Once a week, definitely not Mondays and Fridays. If it happens to be a holiday, they make it up that week. And that there needs to be an accountability within the contract, that if they don't show, there's a consequence to them and a payback to the city. Why I say that is last November, I cleaned up some things on my neighbor's yard in Rolling Hill. Put a pile out right where Waste Management normally picks up. My neighbor does pay for Waste Management. It's still sitting there. Literally still sitting there. If there's no accountability, then your contract is a one-way contract. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening. Grace Reed, City of Sebastian. I do have some questions. By watching the earlier afternoon meeting, I know that there was a lot of questions that you were probably going to have to come back with, and to make sure we're only talking about the prices and the contract, because actually I don't have a problem with the way they pick up my trash. Usually if they miss today, they're early in the morning, because for some reason I seem to be on the last road out of town. So I did have some notations earlier in the meeting. Someone had asked if the prices on this sheet for either the the subscription or the universal, is this what Waste Management is saying they will be? All right, my first question is down at the bottom. It says, note the prices do not include the franchise fee. So that means that's going to be tacked onto this?
There is a franchise fee on top of that,
Okay.
6%.
How much?
6%.
Thank you. In the contract, 7.0, it says that the franchisee will pay a franchise fee to the city. So if I'm paying their franchise fee, I don't understand that. Somebody's going to have to end up explaining that before y'all take the vote. That is franchise fee, Section 7.0.
7 point.
The next thing I had was, let me flip my page. That was all I had about the prices, because you have talked about the prices and the ones that are up for contract in the neighboring cities or counties or whatever, and everybody's said that they're on mandatory, but no one has said if they are on the tax roll or if they're paying individually.
All right.
So when you're when you're on universal or mandatory, it's on your tax roll, because if you don't do that, it becomes a subscription service. So if the individual paid it individually month by month and they don't pay it, how do you know? This ensures that the bill gets paid and everybody is paying their equal fair share. So like today, if a person doesn't want to pay their subscription fee, they stop service. Well, if it's universal, they won't be able to stop service, but then that also means that they've got to, who's going to go after the individual that didn't pay the invoice, and who's going to invoice them? So that's why universal service just has always been on the non-ad valorem roll, tax roll.
The biggest problem I have with that is once the government starts taking over what you pay, it's there forever. And that 3% increase every year is going to turn into something else at the end of 5 years. And they're just going to get more and more and more because they don't have any competition. And that's really a sad thing. But on with the contract. There's a lot of people out on social media and stuff like that when it comes to the yard waste about having to bundle it and stuffing up. But they will be happy that section 851 of the contract says that the yard waste and palm fronds do not have to be bundled. That's just a little happy thing for some of the people watching. So 9.2 is the universal billing. If the city executes the universal service, then the city would bill all residential units by adding the fee to the property tax. City has to reach an agreement with the tax collector concerning this matter. So if we have to get permission from the tax collector to do this, how come the city residents are not voting on this? You're putting this on our tax rolls. Should it really be on the ballot?
No, this, no,
Excuse me?
this is considered, would be, if we were to go that way, it would be a special assessment. It would benefit all the residents, so then it would go.
So the next question is, in June, when their contract runs out, and July 1st, the new one starts, am I going to automatically get a bill for a half a year that I have to, boom, come up with before the next tax date in, I don't know, November?
Mr. Carlisle?
So the city would send out the invoices from the July to September, and then October. Your tax bill would cover from October of 23 to 24.
How many of your residents do you think can come up with that money in one little bill that's due in a month? Okay. Section 9.3 with the payment, it says the city reserves the right with justification to partially pay any invoice submitted by the franchisee. So what constitutes justification to only pay part of the bill? I know if I only paid part of my bill, they cut off my trash, they cut off my lights, they cut off something. So what is the justification for only paying a partial bill to who's picking up your trash?
So if they fail to perform their services, we could deduct out of what we pay them, deduct their fines and fees out of that partial bill. So we would not have to pay the entire bill. Any fines or things that they owe back to the city based on poor performance would be deducted from that bill.
So we're keeping the customer service complaints with us calling Waste Management, correct? It's not going to be calling the city, we're going to be calling
We haven't
Waste Management.
finalized this contract.
Yeah,
There's been
but-
some conversation about the city taking over those calls. And
Okay.
and I think that's a good idea.
I think it is a good idea for it to be the city, because I am retired now, but when I was working, we had a thing that we would say, "In God we trust, all others we audit." And who's to say that all the calls to the company are going to be logged?
Right.
Because according to this, it has to be 4% of the annual or 0.5% of the monthly in complaints before they even get a fine. So we'll just stay under that. We'll never get a fine. And that whole next page, which is page 19, is the whole thing I had highlighted. I mean, there are bailiwick of things here that y'all are going to fine these people for. And it's just, we're going to hopefully not have any money in fines because they're going to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, and all these funds are going into what you said, the general fund? So what are we going to do with all that money? What are we going to cover with that money? We're getting all these fines, money from fines. You've got our money for the year and spend as we need to or spend as we want to, or what? I have some serious reservations. But in closing, I was on the fence of the universal one pickup a week would benefit my family with price and stuff like that. I do not agree with the tax roll. So with that, I will have to go, in my opinion, with subscriber one time a week. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, sir, come on up.
Mr. Mayor, can you just clarify one thing for me? Because you got it written down. I was trying to keep, the subscription one times a week, how much is that?
Subscription, $27.75. No, Bob.
Yeah.
And twice a week is what for subscription? Twice a week?
42.
42 even?
Yeah.
It's $100 more a year to do
Okay,
subscription
okay.
service, one pickup.
And then Universal is
Then Universal.
$29.74 and $19.45.
Yes.
Two times a week.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay, okay,
All
thank you.
right, sir, your name, please?
Yes, sir. Richard Henry, 101 Ogden Ave, Sebastian. I'm part-time. I go back to New York 6 months, and I come back down here. Since 2011, when I purchased the house, I've never had any troubles with waste management, but that's the only one I've ever seen. And I just wonder if there's anybody else that ever had this contract before, besides waste management?
No, we've had other vendors back in the day,
When
but
was
waste
that, though?
management.
This is 2011. I've always seen waste management.
Oh, really? I
That's
don't
what it
know.
has been.
Yeah.
It was Republic years ago, but Waste Management's been at about 15 years now.
Oh, yeah.
15 years. Because I know in New York, there's certain people that get contracts like that. I'm not saying it's here, but I know in New York, they got certain people that get the bids. But anyways, I think once a week for garbage is plenty enough. As far as picking up recyclables, you know, that could be, you know, if it is now once a week. As far as the garbage or the yard waste, they could do that once a month or once every 2 months. Or, I mean, twice a month, or even once a month, because there's not that much palm fronds and not that, so they could cut their costs there. And I heard that in the last year and a half, there's been almost 7,000 houses being built in Sebastian, in New River County, I should say. And so whoever's got the garbage pickup for that area, they're gonna make a pretty good chunk of change, and they're gonna have to get maybe more trucks, but every time they pick up, they're making a profit. They're not doing it, you know, breaking even. So I just wonder why only one bid that I've seen since I've been here. It's always just waste management. They've been good, I can't complain, but I'm just saying why aren't there any other, you know, contractors bidding that? And as far as that yard waste goes, people in town, they got trailers, they could pick up yard waste. Waste management wouldn't even have to take care of that. Because I know I don't have that much. I get palm fronds now and then, but that's it. There's nothing they can, you know, worry about. So I think they cut their costs by doing that once a week, you know, for the garbage, and once a month for yard waste. That would cut their running down, so. That's all I got to say. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Linda Loschel, Claremont Street. For the once-a-week subscription, that's if the day that they're going to pick up, their trucks are working and their employees show up. I've had nothing but problems with waste management. Last time I called at the beginning of the year, they told me it's the first time I called in 3 years. Boy, is that wrong. I spend a lot of time calling them. I've never had to work so hard for a service I'm paying for. I'm over it. And then we need to look at some of these businesses in town. I also listen to a business near me that also, the person who owns it also has a residence near me. He bucks the system. He doesn't pay for commercial pickup. He'd rather roll his bins up and down the alley 4 to 5 times a week. Is that fair to the rest of us? So I'm for the once-a-week subscription and make it mandatory that the businesses get theirs.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Next.
Good evening. Mark Mason, City of Sebastian. Just a couple things I want to go over and clarify with some other people that said tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to actually listen to the community on this. It's a major issue. Just recently, my taxes have gone up $600. My homeowner's insurance has gone up $600. So that's a major impact. You know, as a couple gentlemen before us said, you know, wages haven't gone up. I mean, that's across the board. So I have more money going out than I have coming in. This is a major impact on me and my family. So when it comes to the budget, there's not much wiggle room to play with money. I'm paying $43 a quarter as of now for the 2 pickups and what we have. Earlier today, I listened to part of your 1 o'clock meeting. And I think Mayor Jones, you asked our city manager about new trucks that are going to be in the city that Waste Management is going to provide. In 1322 of this contract, all it says is they're not going to be, that they're going to be condition of equipment, sanitary, good, in good repair, that has an odorless free, they're not going to have materials or hydraulic fluids leaking, says absolutely nothing about new vehicles that our city is going to have. And to Vice Mayor Nunn, you said that, you know, about the price. We're already paying $10 more than Fellsmere and Indian River. Now, for these trucks to travel from Sebastian to VLE, or to go down Barber Street and have the last house on Barber Street stops where our city ends and picks up where you now have a county house, that person is paying $10 less than their neighbor right next door. That is not fair. Now, the neighbor next door also has a larger container, because when I moved into my house, I had 2 recycling containers I don't need. I asked them to come take one. I said, oh, can we get one of those larger ones? They said, nope, they're strictly for the county. City only gets the green cans, because the county gets the larger cans, which I guess in this proposal, we can opt to get the bigger cans. Okay, that's one thing. 6 months ago, we already talked about the price increase. Heather had spoke about the CPI, and it's 3%. Is that across the whole contract, or is that a limited, is that per month, per quarter? Is the 3% CPI locked in for the total contract?
For the
Carlisle? Yeah.
for the annual renewals,
So every year it can go up 3%,
with council's approval,
Max 3%.
max.
on top of what we're going to discuss. So we could have a 3%, so we could have a 21% increase.
We could.
Because we have a 7-year, we're going for a 7-year contract, correct? So if we have a 3% CPI increase, we can then have an overall 21% on top of what we're going to decide what this is.
Right.
That's going to be astronomical.
But it has to be approved by the council, though, the CPI.
Understood, and that's why we're here. But I just want to make the public aware that that is a possibility, that if we're in economic downturn and they go, hey, well, we need 3% more, they're going to come to you and say, you know, they can ask for whatever. Is there anyone here from Waste Management?
Yeah, they're here.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, they are.
Can I
Hang on.
ask them a question?
Or do you talk to me?
Okay,
Yeah.
all I want to know is, do the trucks have the capability of knowing whether you pay your bill or not to make a pickup or not make a pickup?
No. Yes.
Are there computers in the vehicles?
Yes. They do.
Okay, they have the ability, so they would skip you. If you haven't paid your bill, they're going to skip you.
Correct.
Okay, that's the one thing I want to say. You said before earlier, there's 9,000 subscriptions. So when I look at this back page, when we go to page 87, and we go to the subscription versus universal, okay, they give us 4 options. Now, personally, I think Waste Management is dangling a carrot in front of us saying, hey, if we go universal, it's only $19.45. It's not that big of a raise. You know? They're saying it's only a little bit of a raise. But then you're locked into a universal collection. I want my choice. I want to be able to. I go to the dump once a week with my yard waste. Waste Management has not come to my house once for yard waste. I was there yesterday talking to all the guys because I go every week. I have that ability, others don't. I understand that. But I don't feel that if we get locked into a subscription, we are doomed. And it's going to be in our tax roll, and it's going to affect a lot of people. The other thing we talked about, the price do not include franchise fees, which we hit on. Are we talking 6% on top of whatever numbers is decided? So if we go with universal proposal at $19.45, we're going to add 6% to that as well?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That's the.
Oh, and that's 6 across the board for all 4 categories?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question I had is a franchise fee, that the city gets back a percent of the gross amount.
Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, it's a gross bill amount.
Okay.
That's 7.0. What has that been over the past years? What have we got back from Waste Management as far as a franchise fee percentage?
So I don't know the percent exact, it's always been around 6%, but last year was like $103,000.
Okay. Where does that money go to?
That offsets our general fund
General
expenses.
revenue fund.
So it doesn't go back into the garbage roll?
No.
Well, it offsets our whole general fund revenue.
Right. So my proposal with this, if that money came into, you're opening Pandora's boxes, that's money's going back into general funds, getting mixed with everything else. Why not take that money and subsidize for the garbage collection for the residents of Sebastian and take off some of the burden, especially for some of the older folks who don't have the ability and are fixed incomes to help them out with funds. So if we get 6% back, I don't know, Ken, I don't know if Ken knows what the 6% of the collected gross would be, if that money could be utilized to help out our older folks in town. So it would offset some of their costs. I went to Winn-Dixie yesterday. I saw people putting food back on the shelf because they were like, no, I can't afford this. And they're prioritizing. So again, with Mr. Dodd, you mentioned going to the restaurant. You can go to a restaurant and pay those prices. You can look at and see what you're paying. If you're not happy about what you're paying, you can walk out and go somewhere else. Okay, what we're getting here is like, I am very opposed to us going to the universal proposal. I want to see the subscription, the 1 week pickup, and the larger cans. I also, if we go with the, I want the subscription. If we go with the universal, can you put language in that would opt us out of the universal? That if we choose, we can opt out of universal and not have any pickup at all?
That's a subscription service.
That's subscription, you can opt out of that. If we go universal, everyone would have to.
No, that's what I'm asking. Can we add to this contract that if you all mandate universal, can you put a mandate in the contract that says if we choose to opt out of universal and we have our own, and we have no garbage pickup whatsoever?
Well, no, that would be under the subscription service.
No, I understand that.
So no is the answer. No.
They actually did.
I'm just saying an amendment to say if I'm not happy with the universal, I can opt out and go to the dump.
The answer to that's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think that's all I have. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We got another subscription. Come on.
Mayor Jones, members of the council, thanks for having us all in here this afternoon. We appreciate your time. My name is Gary James. I live on Orange Avenue, year-round resident of Sebastian, been here for over 20 years. Waste management. I wouldn't have been here this afternoon. I couldn't make it at 1 o'clock, but lo and behold, at 5:15 when I went out to bring my trash can back in today, when they went by at 1:40, they didn't pick the trash up again today. That's not the first time. I've called Waste Management on numerous times just this year. They miss pickups. They miss the dates. They miss, and I don't want to disagree with the gentleman from New York, but as far as your yard waste goes, they missed yard waste. And if we didn't have yard waste year-round...
Hang on a minute, sir. Hang on.
Can we get your address again? I want that to be...
482 Orange Avenue.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you.
482 Orange Avenue.
482 Orange Avenue?
Yeah, I've already called Waste Management this afternoon, but they were closed.
Okay.
So are
Did
you
you get that,
saying
Paul?
that you had your can out to the curb, they
My
went down
can
your
was out
road
last
and
night.
didn't
They told me to
pick
put
it
it
up?
out the night before, so we put it out the night before. I don't like to do that because of raccoons and other animals that will knock them over. But We do as they ask.
Right.
And they still don't pick it up. I'm not gonna say they don't pick it up every time, but they miss it at least once every couple weeks. And you can look at her and she can shake her head.
Oh, no.
And I can check with my wife and show you when they pick it up and when they don't pick it up. Yard waste. I don't know what the gentleman has from New York in his yard, but I will tell you, if I went once a month living in Florida year-round, we trim trees 12 months out of the year. And I just had 2 cans out there this morning. They did pick the yard waste up. My question's this. We found this out, I think, if this were a football game, we'd be in the 4th quarter. We're down to a contract that's going to be let in several months. Did anyone else bid this contract, or is it a sole source contract?
No, it was not a sole source. It was sent out, and the only bid that we got back in was Waste Management.
Okay.
It was put out per our rules and regulations, what has to go out when it.
So if I've read the information right that came out, we've got three options. But if we don't take one of these 3 options, and the way I read it was if we rebid the contract, or try and rebid the contract, or reword the contract, we're told that it might interfere with the contract being let, and it may mess up the trash pickup whenever it is, June, July, whatever. I don't think that's fair. I don't think going from $42, $43 a quarter to $40-some a month, when many residents are living on Social Security and a little bit of a retirement. I don't know what you guys are living on. I don't know what you're paid. I truly don't care. I hope that everybody's just fat and happy. But there are a lot of people that aren't. And with the price of every single thing else that's skyrocketing for everyone in this country, not just people in Sebastian or Fellsmere or Vero Beach, I think it's absurd that we're looking and being asked to pay the amount of money that Waste Management wants, so that the owners of the company can live out in their mansions in Texas and wherever they're at now, sit fat and happy while we sit here and struggle each month. I don't agree with anything that's in this thing other than rebidding the contract. If these people picked up the trash like they were supposed to and did every single thing that they were supposed to do right now, I still think it's too high. But I maybe would be able to go along with it. But with the service that I've gotten, there's no way in God's green earth I can go along with anything, Mayor Jones, that you guys are looking at. I know you've got a lot on your plate. I know you've got a lot to think about. But when you get around and you start talking about this, I want you to think about all these individuals that are here. I don't know how many were here at 1 o'clock today. Think about them. Think about the people that weren't able to be here this afternoon, this evening, because they were working. Because at the times that this thing is set up for, a lot of people, my wife doesn't get off at 5:30. She couldn't come. She probably wouldn't say a word anyway, but if she were here, you know. Think about what you're trying to put on the backs of all the people that voted to put you up there. I mean, it's not a threat, but I will say this. You know, it's not going to be easy on a whole lot of the residents of this city when they've got to fork out 250, 300% more than what they're paying right now. I don't know how long it takes to rework a contract, to rebid a contract. If nobody else bid on it, it's not doing us a heck of a lot of good. But somebody's got to have a come to Jesus with Waste Management, because right now things aren't very good. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Mayor, while the young lady walks down.
Yes, sir.
Are we under, since we advertised 1 to 2 o'clock, are we under a time constraint, Mr. City Attorney? Do we need to officially move this forward?
I was going to bring that to your attention. I thought this was only for 1 hour workshop. If you're going to extend it, my recommendation is take it to vote.
Okay, I move that we extend this workshop to 6:30.
Second.
Yeah.
All right, good. Any consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm willing to go till we're done. Till we're done.
Okay, then I.
It's only a half hour, I
Okay,
don't
then
think
I'll modify my motion. I move that we extend this workshop until there's no longer any input.
There you go.
Second that, yeah.
I
would
just
like
want to
to-
make it legal.
I would like to mention one thing. When I went to the Florida League of Cities this past year, I spoke to every single garbage company there. There were probably 10, maybe 8. I could be exaggerating. I spoke to every single one about future contracts coming up here in Indian River County. Every single one assured, oh yeah, we'll be looking at that. We'll be seeing how things are going to try to bring us competition, hoping that whenever the RFP was put out, that people would bid. We can't force companies to bid. We can't tell somebody they have to bid. We can't ask them to bid. We can't go say, hey, can't you bid on this? We can ask why they didn't, but we don't have the authority to go out. That's illegal, to go out and ask people for bids. That's against the law. So we can't do that. This city council, trust me, we would rather the price of this garbage to stay exactly where it is and go down. But as you can see from that last sheet, the prices of this are right in line with all of the other cities. Please don't compare Indian River County and Fellsmere because they're on an old contract that'll be gone in 2 years and they're gonna be paying probably the same thing we're paying or more. I just say, we're not trying to make choices, we're trying to make the best choice. That's why we're here, to make the best choice for everybody. Not doing it is not an option though.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Name for the record?
Hi, Sharon Herman,
Pull your mic down a little bit so I get closer to you.
taller than me, right?
Yeah.
Sharon Herman, Sebastian. I have a few concerns. First of all, I'm for the subscription, 1 year. I know it was stated that the checks and balances to keep it from going up if it's a universal put on our tax roll, the checks and balances is with y'all, which sounds really good because you can say, and we're not gonna let those go up. But if the company comes back and says, hey, our prices are going up X number of dollars, if you don't agree to the price increase, then you'll have to find somebody else, then our taxes are going up because you don't have a choice, okay? I think that's something that people need to really think about. I had a question about, we only had the one bid, and Mr. Carlisle stated that one of the reasons that another company didn't bid was because we didn't provide them with the business information that they needed. My question is, why didn't we? I'm sorry, but...
We don't have that information. It's a proprietary. We don't do surveys. Every time these bids go out, it's incumbent upon the contractor to go and survey what every restaurant and that was a commercial pickup. We gave them all the information we have for the residential. But we don't go out and survey every business, or 2 yard once a week or 3 yards. That is always done by the contractor. And they wanted to do rear load service, which is why they got in trouble down in Port St. Lucie and can't go on.
But I guess my question is if they're not, and part of it I think is it seems like in the recent years, the business of doing business has become less of the person's responsibility and more of everybody else's responsibility. You know, you want to do a certain business, but you don't want to have to do the work to do that business, so you're going to blow it off on somebody else. And that's happening a lot, I think. And it sounds like, you know, these companies, they say, well, we don't want to go out and do these surveys for these businesses because if you want us to bid, then you need to provide that information. You know, and if that was reflected in any of the other companies as well, then maybe we need to provide that information if that gives us another option. As far as the extra cans go, I wanted to clarify something, or have y'all clarify something. It said at that $85, is that to get an extra can, or will we have to replace our cans?
That's for an extra
That's
can.
for an extra can.
Yeah, it's $90, do I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's
I was
90.
Oh, I don't know, on the paper, it said, I've got from up there, it says 85.
Maybe that's before
Yeah.
tax, I don't know.
And I guess the thing is if the county has larger cans from the same company, then why can't we just have a larger can rather than having to pay an additional fee for an extra?
They are
Well,
offering.
you can, they're offering 96 gallon if we go to the 1 day.
For no fee?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's good to know because I didn't see that.
Okay. And then the other question I had is with the franchise fees. I know Grace touched on this a little bit, and so did that other gentleman. But if it's a 6% annual franchise fee, is that correct?
That's correct.
On top of the potential 3% annual increase, okay? So that means we're constantly getting these fees. I don't understand why we're paying the franchise fee and then getting a kickback at the end of the year. Why don't we just reduce the rates and not have to do that? You know, instead of having that pop into the general fund and then figure out what to do with it, or, as the gentleman suggested, possibly put it in the garbage fund, okay, to reduce that. But why not just back it off in the first place rather than charge people and then hope to get some of that money back? Maybe that $6 is what they needed to get their eggs for the week, you know? And nowadays, that's a concern for everybody. Let me see if I had anything else. Checks and balances? No, I guess those are my questions. Again, subscription, okay? I feel like that gives the people that can't afford another $30 a month, and there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of us on fixed income, you know, that could be getting there too. That $30 a month can make a difference if they can go by the trash, or maybe the 2 or 3 neighbors can get together and somebody can make a dump run, you know, once a week, something like that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Come on up.
Good evening. Darlene Cooper, 136 Kildare Drive. I'm for the once-a-week subscription, but I have a concern regarding a statement that was made earlier regarding the contract. If someone doesn't pay their bill, then their trash will not be picked up?
Correct, on a subscription.
What do you think that's going to do to neighboring houses where this trash is sitting out at the road, getting maggots and everything else?
That's why there's another option.
That's why what?
That's why there's the universal option. Because this is something that we, you know, this is a concern of myself, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's fine.
That if, you know, times are tight for a lot of people. I know I was flabbergasted when I heard how many homeless families are going through my children's elementary school. I know what it is to live on a very tight budget from when I was much younger. But we're hearing a lot tonight about the once-a-week subscription service, which is going to cost everyone in this room $100 more annually, while 70% of our community is currently a subscriber. We're going to face the fact that there might be that extra $10 a month could be the pushover. And then these could be people who don't have the means to get their garbage to the convenience center. So, I mean, you make a valid point, but that's something that we assume if we go for the subscription offer versus the cheapest option. You know, this is why we're up here and we're asking you guys, because it's a very hard decision. Because in one way, it's more affordable, but some of the people getting that bill might not be able to handle the bill. But then we're also, by giving people a choice, we're raising other people's bills. So it's not great.
So is it set in stone, 1 month they miss paying for it, and then they don't get picked up the next week?
No, they're picking up once a
possible.
week on the subscription proposal for once a week pickup. They're going to pick up once a week for your waste, and then your yard waste is also going to be once a week, and you're also going to still be getting your recycle, because that's not in this contract. That's included outside of that. So.
But if my April 21st bill comes and I don't pay it, you don't pick up the next week?
No, you will not get picked up if you don't pay.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
that needs to be clarified, and maybe Mr. Mayor, you could ask the waste management people to do that, but they have a process for non-payment. I don't know what it is, but like most places, they don't cut you off the day after your bill's due. They have a window of time in which it's a grace period. So if you don't pay that bill on Thursday that's due on Thursday, they're not gonna they're not gonna refuse to pick your trash up the next Tuesday if that's the day, but they're gonna refuse to pick it up at some point in time, maybe 30 days from now, or some window of time. If you haven't paid, they're gonna refuse to pick your trash up. So it's not gonna be automatic the next time it comes around, and, they have right now, I'm not sure what the number is, but right now in their delinquent accounts, they've got several hundred people who have not paid and are not being picked up under the subscription system because they haven't paid. So they do have a grace period in there, but, I would be surprised if it's more than 30 days, but they do have a grace period in there in which they will continue to pick your trash up until you make the payments on that.
Actually, I did have a discussion with Waste Management about this, and they're at a 17% shut-off rate right now for the residents that have subscription service. 17% of the residents are shut off for non-payment. They have a screen now in their trucks so that when the driver's going around, he's going through it and it's telling him where to pick up garbage. So once you reach that non-payment status, in the old days, they had a piece of paper hanging up and they looked at that and went down the map and went through it and did it. Now they actually have a digital representation that's telling them when they have a non-payment or a non-pickup, they don't stop at that house anymore. So in the old days, it may have taken, I'll be honest, I forgot to pay my garbage once about 3 years ago, and I didn't realize it for like 2 months later, and then the garbage picked up. I'm like, what happened? Oh, I forgot to pay my bill. So I went and paid my bill, realized, how did I miss that? Well, it's not like that anymore. With a digital account link, it's gonna happen a lot quicker, but that is part of our concern and part of our reasoning for the universal service. The gentleman earlier talked about him seeing people throwing garbage into the trash cans at the parks, trash cans at the ball fields, because people don't have garbage service. For them, it's easier to do that. Well, we're paying for that. The rest of us are paying for that when they're throwing garbage into the dump. I mean, into the woods or into those other things. Those are things of reasons for having universal, because then everybody has a trash can that gets picked up. And there's nobody that doesn't have it. So that's one of the proponents for doing universal, and I understand you completely.
It's got to be affordable.
But understood.
Got to be affordable. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, sir, come on down. Matsu.
Good evening. My name is Himanshu Mehta. I'm the manager for the Indian River County Solid Waste Disposal District. So I basically manage all of the waste that comes to the Indian River County landfill, manage the operations of the 5 convenience centers, and the recycling program for Indian River County. And I applaud the council for going through this process. It's been interesting to listen to some of the comments here, because we are also, we do have a contract through Waste Management through September 30 of 2025. So we have begun the process of an RFP. We're hope to, by the end of this year, get that out on the street, make a decision next year, and so on and so forth. We're also going to be facing, our county commission, unincorporated Indian River County is going to be facing the same decision, because we're a subscription right now, 1 time a week for garbage, 1 time a week for yard waste, and then once a week for recycling. But we're going to be facing the same decision about whether or not to go to universal or maintain subscription, and price is going to be an important factor. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and I've shared it with our commission, and I will be sharing it again in the future, is one of the challenges that we still find in 2023 is, I understand cost is a factor, but recycling currently is universal, right? And we've had universal recycling for probably over 20 years, and it is on the assessment program. We collect about $33 a year. Part of the assessment that we have for the landfill fee includes about $33 a year that we use for Waste Management to go pick up recycling throughout the county. But because of the subscription program, what we have found through hundreds and hundreds of audits that we've done is that there are residents that will use the recycling cart for garbage service. And so what it ultimately does is all the good folks and all the education that we're doing to try to promote recycling and try to keep that material from going in the landfill winds up in that recycling cart, contaminates the product, and it makes it difficult ultimately to recycle that material. So it's a continuous challenge. We continue to go out and audit the carts. We put tags on them. I mean, I've been out there where we're a while back where we basically have told my staff is, tell Waste Management to not pick up that recycling card anymore because they're continually abusing the program. And we've even gotten code enforcement involved. And our commission supports that. And ultimately, we'll take that recycling card away if the resident continues to use it as a garbage service. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. That's a challenge that we have. And again, we don't know what decision we're going to make either. It's a challenging decision. One thing I can tell you related to the convenience centers, we are not looking to make any changes to the convenience centers. So depending on however you decide, at this time right now, we're maintaining our operations. We'll continue to maintain the operations. What the future holds of that, I couldn't tell you right now. It'll be a county commission decision down the road. But at this time, that's what I want to share with you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
May I?
Yeah, Ms. Dixon?
Do you feel the convenience centers could handle an influx of people bringing their garbage if we chose subscription service?
We're currently managing as much as we can. I know the Roseland Convenience Centers, it's outside of city limits and whatnot, is not only, fully utilized, but it's back when it was built, it's surrounded by residential communities. There's houses right across from it. We get some complaints from there in terms of the service, Republic Service provides. One of the challenges we see with that is we get an influx of out-of-county folks that come into our center up in Roseland, in Fellsmere, and also down in Oslo. So that's one of the challenges that we have. So we're trying to, keep up the service there. It's open 5 days a week from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. However, at times, and especially around the hurricanes, it's very difficult to keep those service centers flowing continuously.
Right.
And they also probably cost about $25 per year per home to keep those centers operating.
Okay.
If I could, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So one of the questions I brought up earlier, which is part of your discussion, is if we go subscription service and then 2 years down the road, you guys decide to go, and the county decide to go universal, I can see very clearly that it would be financially sensible for them to get rid of the convenience centers with the understanding that they've created a universal garbage system. I guess I ask that you make sure you keep these cities in mind and keep that argument, that discussion on the table, because that will create let's be honest, we'd have, say, 35% of our people decide they don't want garbage. We'd have 35% of our people trying to find some place to put their garbage. So definitely keep that on the table for future discussions, please.
Sure, no, we want to work with the city, and we completely understand that. I think any decision that the county makes about universal will be related to unincorporated Indian River County and what impacts it will have on the residents there. We're not trying to tie that into the convenience centers at this time. And again, we understand. I mean, one of the things with the convenience centers, if something were to happen, they're predominantly we have universal recycling. However, they're recycling, containers at the convenience centers, right? There's residents that bring in large quantity of cardboard there. We offer styrofoam services, used oil, batteries. So those are the services that will not go away. So the convenience centers, if you will, for recycling purposes, these other things that, residents can't recycle in their carts, that is something that we're going to continue to offer because we want to keep those things out of the landfill and try to recycle as much as we can.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, sir.
Hello. Mark Mason again, Sebastian.
Good name for the record, sir? No, good, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to touch on Vice Mayor Nunn's comment about the 17% rate of that are not subscription.
Turned off, yes.
Okay. And then going to Ms. Dixon, your point, the woman brought up that we're going to have maggots in cans and garbage not picked up, and a subscription versus universal. The universal will be better because we don't have that now. So 17% don't have garbage pickup. We don't have cans on the side of the road billowing over with rats and garbage all over the place. I drive through this town every day. I do not see that. So I don't think pushing for a universal over a subscription because 17% don't want to have the garbage picked up It's not like we have a disaster on all these streets with garbage cans dumped over, maggots and rodents around. So if that is, then it becomes a health and safety issue. Okay, that's not really contingent upon really be a factor in which way we go with this. So again, I'm just gonna say subscription, 1 day a week. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Oh.
Just one more. Dennis Addicks, Woodstork Way, Sebastian, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, thank you. A, I commend you and also thank you for what you're doing. But I think that there's got to be a little bit more granular approach to this. You know, we've been used to subscription. That's been the norm. Twice a week has been excessive. Once a week is great. Once a week would be great if Waste Management would pick it up. Some of these guys I know personally as well, but they don't pick up trash regularly in my community. I'll say that. I can't speak for everybody else. But second, if we're going to keep subscription or that's being entertained, then I think part of the contract, and that's why I say get dialed down a little bit here. If we have folks that do auto pay, which Mr. Carlisle said there are, then there should be a benefit for auto pay that you get a discount, just like you do with everybody else in the world that does subscriptions. A. B, if you pay annually, maybe you get a discount. But somehow make it more approachable and more enticing for the consumer to participate with Waste Management. They've got, I'm going to say this as nice as possible, they've got a stronghold on us, right? Nobody else wants to play. We're playing in this by ourselves with Waste Management. So Waste Management needs to have a little bit of compassion towards the community as well and give some. We are paying more than we ever have. We're going to continue to pay more than we ever have. With the 3% annual increase, that's an exponential increase if they were to implement that year after year. That 3% this year is not 3%, it's 3% the following year, but it's a greater 3% because your rate increased. All of this needs to be kept in mind as you entertain your next steps for us as citizens of the city of Sebastian. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Is there anyone else in the audience? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
I have one person who's raised their hand.
All right, let's bring them up.
Hello, Mr. McCollum, can you hear us?
Yeah. I want to thank you for having this workshop. My name's Nelson McCollum at 554 Gossamer Wing Way. And I'm definitely for the subscription service as it is. And I'm very strongly against this universal trash service. And I think the current system or service seems to be working fine. And I'm actually kind of surprised that we're discussing this. We make choices every day for all kinds of things. A simple example, I wash my car at home. I could take it to a car wash and pay to have it washed. My neighbor actually pays to have somebody come to his house and wash his car. That's great. I'm happy for him. That's his choice. I choose to do my own to save some money, as we all do with many different issues. And that's why I think the subscription service is fine, just like it is. If you would like to have somebody come to your house and pick your trash up, you can pay some money and they will come do that for you. If you would like to put it in your car and take it to the convenience centers, which are funded by your tax dollars already, you're able to do that. It's totally your choice. If you want to take on an extra expense, you can. If you don't want to or you can't afford it, you don't have to. That's a good system. It's a free choice system. If I want to take my trash off, I can. If I want to pay somebody to come get it, I can. In this inflation economy time that we're in, I would strongly encourage you not to inflict any more expenses on the residents. you said we're at like a 70% subscription now, 30% apparently probably take it off themselves. That 30% doesn't subscribe possibly because it's a financial burden and they choose to take it off themselves. I would ask you to please not inflict the financial burden on the 30% that don't want it because they don't have the service now. This seems to only be coming up because there's been a large increase for the people that want subscription service, but they don't have to keep the service. They have a choice to drop it, or they can choose to pay the increase and carry on like they are. I just like the free choice. Especially after COVID, where the governments have been telling us to wear masks or get vaccinated or whatever, people have had a lot of mandates on their life in the last 3 years, and they kind of got quite tired of it. Let's not put a new mandate on people that we're going to give you a new bill, a new line on your tax bill for trash service when you may not want it, when you're able to take it off yourself and you would rather do that. So if you do happen to do universal, I do favor the once a week. Twice a week is definitely more than needed, but I am strongly against universal, and I ask that you continue to give us, the residents in Sebastian, the choice to take your trash to the convenience center free of charge or pay somebody to come pick it up. Leave it up to the residents as a choice, however their budgets, will let them do. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much, sir. All right, I think we're done with that. We're going to go and close public input. Council, anyone has any final thoughts before we close this meeting? Mr. Dodd.
I guess I'm a lot more confused than I was at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm somewhat skeptical. The word skeptical has been used a lot today. Watch, I'm going. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, my mic is not on. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm somewhat skeptical because it seems to me like that we are potentially driving the majority by the minority again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we seem to be doing that a lot in this country lately. The minority's driving the majority because the majority doesn't say much. They're not in this room talking. Okay. The people who don't want to pay $100 more per year to have their trash picked up just because the minority are asking for us not to go universal scares me.
Yes.
And for that reason, I'm not sure we're ready to make this decision. I need more information, personally. I mean, I'm not so sure this doesn't need to even go out as a referendum and ask the city residents to vote one way or the other on it. I don't know if it would be possible, for example, for us to go to a short-term subscription service with Waste Management until we do something like that. But I'm not personally ready to recommend subscription because we're getting 20 people tell us that that's what they want, when that's 20 people out of 12,000. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure that, once again, the governmental body is being driven by the vocal minority mm-hmm. at the expense of the majority. And I'm quite frankly, I'm not one who is happy about that happening at the upper levels of our government. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I'm a very conservative Republican, if anybody wants to hear this, but I'm still not happy about that, okay? And so I'm not ready to make a decision on this. I won't be Wednesday night ready to make a decision on this. I don't think we have enough information. I apologize to the Waste Management people. You guys have done a great job. I know you've missed services out there, and I know you've not picked up on times, but I thoroughly understand. When I go in a restaurant and have to wait for an hour because they don't have enough waitresses or waiters, it's not the fault of the restaurant necessarily. It's the fault of what's happening in the world today, and they have the same issues that we do. They've tried everything. I can remember having a conversation a year ago with our Waste Management representative. They talked about a $10,000 bonus program they were offering to try to get drivers, and they still couldn't get people to apply for the job. So it's not like they do this intentionally, I don't think. But, the stuff that I'm hearing, I mean, for example, the 3% per year cap on the CPI. If we do 3% every year for the first 7 years of this contract, it means the rate goes from $19.45 to $23.92. That means that we've increased it by $4.50 over 7 years. I'm not sure that you're going to find apples are not increased by a lot more than that over the next 7 years. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily scare me. I think that the council may want to discuss the franchise fee. I mean, the franchise fee on the subscription service of $27.75 is somewhere in the neighborhood. I put that number down somewhere in here. It's about $179,000 a year. On the Universal $14.95, it's about $160,000 a year. That's revenue that comes in the city's general fund, and we're talking about raising things on the city's. I don't know. It might be a discussion the council needs to have about what how that franchise fee works. I mean, when it goes that way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that all these numbers I've got down here mean nothing if we make a decision based. We're not going to make anybody happy. I heard one of the ladies in the audience told me this before the meeting started. You will fail no matter which way you decide. Absolutely. And I guess that's what happens when you run for office and you get elected, is you get to fail no matter which way you decide. And so I think we're headed in that direction. We're going to fail no matter which way we decide. Right now there's what do we say, 9,000 people on subscription. Those 9,000 people are probably not going to be happy when we tell them they have to pay $100 more because we're going subscription rather than universal. And I know the people in this room are not going to be happy if we tell them we're going to go universal rather than subscription. I'm just not 100% sure, council, whether I have enough information to make this decision. I really am not. So I would like us to have some discussions. I would like, Mr. Carlisle, I'd like you to have some conversations with Waste Management on what options we have while we try to figure this out. I just don't know that we can decide this by Wednesday night. I don't know what the rest of the council feels like. I mean, I can easily make a decision. My wife tells me I'm really great at shutting things off and saying yes or no. So I can very easily make a decision. But I want to make sure that I'm not penalizing one group because another minority group wants me to do that, and I'm going to make sure that who I think are the majority really are. Mm-hmm. And I'm not 100% I know that. So, Mr. Mayor, I guess what I'm saying is that I think we need to spend some time rethinking this issue and ask the city manager to work with Waste Management on what options we may have available to us, and that we possibly postpone trying to make that decision on Wednesday night, because I just don't think we're going to be ready to make it. Even though we're going to make the wrong one no matter which one we do. I'm just not sure I'm going to be ready to do that on Wednesday night, so thank you.
Yeah, basically, what about taking a look at the franchise fees and see what we can do to subsidize some of that? Have you thought about that, Mr. Carlisle, or?
No, that's currently in the same program we have today is a 6% franchise fee. It's part of our administrative costs and overheading costs, so that's what's been that was in the original contract as well.
All right, so what about the fines that are accrued, if any are accrued by Waste Management for failure to perform some of their duties?
You know, that's a speculative number. We don't know what that number is. I mean...
Well, I know we don't know what the number is, but the money, instead of going back into the general revenue, how can that match up with going back to the customers, I suppose?
I don't even know how you would do that.
I don't either, but...
Wouldn't having a surplus, though, help us avoid raising the millage rate, because we would not be looking for more?
So that is some of our franchise fees with electric and that we do use them to offset some of our expenses, but it also covers some of our overhead.
All right, Mr. Dunn.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with most of what Councilmember Dodd just said. I've spoken to people, and I had somebody say to me today, he says, "What are you, stupid?" He says, "If we're all paying for garbage, why would we want to pay more money just so people can have a choice?" I'm like, I don't know, because it gives people a choice. I don't know that I'm any clearer than, I'll be honest, after the 1 o'clock meeting, probably a third of the people were for Universal. I talked to a good portion of them, and You know, Councilmember Dodd's completely right. People that are happy with what you're doing, people that are good, just flowing along, never come here and talk to us.
That's right.
They never come and say how they feel. They never send emails. They never do those things. But don't worry. When we make the wrong decision, they'll all be sending emails. Oh my God, you're going to cost me $100 more a year because you didn't go universal, because some people in the audience told you they didn't want it. And I'm like, well, people in the audience are constituents too. So it's a tough choice. It's a tough choice. I don't know that I'm a fan of spending $60,000 on a referendum to put it out there. Seems like a lot of money to spend for a referendum. I asked that question earlier, what that cost. Can we have a referendum to decide if we have a referendum? Because I'm kind of kidding.
We do have an election in November. So
We do have
we can
election
add
in
that to the
November.
election in November.
That would be up to the city manager to find out if there's temporary things we could do. The problem is, Waste Management is waiting on this contract to be approved to buy new trucks, which means they're going to continuing using old trucks. And if you postpone that another 6 months, then that's another 6 months. The trucks are already 18 months out, because that's how long it takes to get things. I don't know, you know, I do want to say one thing, and I heard some people say it. Yes, this would be universal, would be on your tax bill, but it is not taxes. I know that it's coming in on the same bill for functional billing purposes, because in other words, we would have to come up with a whole nother billing system, which would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to come up with. So doing it through your tax bill helps to avoid having to do that, we already have a functional billing system for taxes, so that serves that purpose. If we didn't say it, empty lots would not be charged the universal charges. Only improved lots with houses would be charged for landfill. They're only charged that for landfill fees, stormwater fees, and it would be the same for the universal for garbage. They wouldn't be charging that. I don't know. I'm at a stalemate.
Too. Ms.
Can I, before you start, can I say one thing? I made a mistake earlier, and I want to thank Nate McCollum for bringing this to me, but I said earlier that vacant lots do not get stormwater fees. I was incorrect. They do get stormwater fees. Okay, so it's a reduced amount. It's half of the amount that the built lots get, but they do get stormwater fees. So I want to make sure I say that.
All right, Ms. Dixon.
Most of my sentiments have already been said. I was leaning one direction earlier today, and then this, and I mean, you can see my tallies from the last two meetings. I had each category, and one was really leaning one way earlier, and now it's the other way. And you know, there's a lot of bleeding hearts in this room, and I love that, and that's one of the reasons why I love Sebastian. Most everybody here is very kind and considerate of one another. I do have to put out there, I do know someone who takes their trash themselves, and boy, could they afford to have it picked up. So it's not always an affordability thing. Some people, it's just part of their routine, or that's what they do. So it's tough. It's hard when I know everybody's pinching pennies these days for me to charge you all $100 more than you need to. And I understand that you're considerate of those who are really struggling, but those 30%, it may be a choice. They may not be full-time residents. It's not necessarily a money thing. So that's something to consider.
All right, thank you. Mr. McPartland.
What are we talking about here? Garbage? Garbage.
No, trash.
Trash. I was here the last time. 10 years went really fast. And we had 4 bidders the last time that came in, which is great. The problem is Sebastian is known as a subscription city. That's why there was only 1 bid. So when people ask why, that's why. Because we are known for our subscription. So that's the problem. So what am I looking at? Either I'm going to approve a contract that's going to raise what I pay for trash 50% or 300%. And that's what you got to look at. And I would like to look at what's the possibility of extending the contract we have now to get in the same line with the county. So when the county goes out in September 2025, we can do together. And we're either all going universal, or we're gonna say subscription, because I know the county is looking at us, they're like, yeah, Sebastian, you go do it, make it universal, because that's what we're all gonna do then. But they're gonna have to fight the same fight, but I would rather fight the fight together. If we can go the 2 years, and I know we've had our problems, but trash should be able to bring us all together, I would think. And I think it would give us the most bang for our buck, if that's a possibility.
All right. That's it, sir?
I think that's enough.
Well, I think we've had enough. We understand where we stand now, and I don't know, Mr. Dodd stated something that we should probably take this off the agenda and look at something different, because there's definitely a lot of information other information that we need in order to make a decision. Mr. Dodd?
I do have one more question, and if I can get a head nod, that would probably be fine. The backdoor pickup for handicapped people and people that can't make it to their trash, is that in the new contract as well?
Yeah, the ADA service is still there.
I'll throw that out there for anybody listening, that if you are ADA handicapped or inability to go take your trash can down to the end of the driveway, they have a service where you can actually sign up for it with Waste Management, and Waste Management will come to your house. They will go get your can, they will bring it down, empty it, and then take it back up to the house. It's a service offered for those handicapped people. I just throw it out there, and that is in the new contract as well.
No, that's listed on page 13 of our handout.
There's
but
no
it talks
cost for
about
that.
You have to prove.
But you have to have a doctor's note and all of that
you have
to
to have a
share with
doctor's
them. You just can't say, I want to have it done.
Right.
You have to have a physician saying that you're unable to do so.
Valet garbage service.
All right, but just wanted to throw that out there and make sure it was definitely in the new contract.
Can we, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned the Wednesday possibility of doing that. Can we ask Mr. Carlisle to come back to us Wednesday so we can make a decision as to whether we can make that decision Wednesday night, or we want to go for 2 more weeks with some information about a survey that we might do? Is there some way that we can put a survey up on the website, some way we can go out and try to get a larger representative of the public responding back to us on this and what the impact would be? I know he can talk to the IT staff about it. Is there something that they can do? Is there something that we can do? Would not be afraid to spend some money to try to get a better indication from the public as to what they want.
Right.
Even if it means sending out some postcards or doing something. I mean, there's services for, we've used them during the election to send out postcards to people to try to vote for us. Is there something we can do to try to get a bigger cross-reference? And then on Wednesday night, based on that report, we can make a decision as to whether we want to table that for another 2 weeks or what we want to do with that.
Right. Some other ones have said that. I know we put it out on our social media and other things, but there are plenty of people in our city that doesn't look at social media, so they're not looking at this and know when these meetings are. So if we can reach a larger cross-section of our community by sending another way out to advertise this to our community so that they can all participate.
Is there a request to do a mail-out survey?
Whatever you can do that's quick enough. I mean, I don't want to postpone Waste Management any longer than we have to.
Mail-out survey is going to take months, and I'll tell you why. You got to get it out, then you got to get them back.
I understand that.
And then it's a pretty good expense. I think when we did 1,500 mailings, and it cost us like $700. You're talking about doing 12,000 mailings.
Okay.
And putting those addresses and labels together. That's a pretty big task to get
could
done.
Could we send the mailing out to the same audience that you sent the survey out to? That was a randomly
It was a random selection of 1,500.
Could we send it out to the same audience?
Yes, sure we could.
Would that be?
It's just an expense. I don't know what that total expense is.
It was randomly selected, so it's not like.
It was a computer selected. Yes, you're correct. It was computer selected. 4 different quadrants of the city were sent out. And then getting them back. So what we had to do is we had to mail the survey, and then we had to label and postage mark an envelope and put it inside with a return label, mail that out, and then they had to mail it back to us.
Is it possible we could do a mailer with a survey address on it where they could go online and do a survey? I
We
think
had
that might
that,
be,
we had that as well.
I think that
and
might
We,
be
well,
quicker.
What about, I mean, we have River Days coming up in a couple weeks. Could we not have like a table to try to survey the people who
Well,
roll through that?
the real problem with that is whether we're talking about postponing this decision for a month or for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And my
Right.
preference would be if we can do it for 2 weeks, it's much better than doing it for a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know we have issues we have to deal with anyway on this, but I'm just not comfortable we've got a good feedback on it.
Can we work with our media partners maybe and get?
Well,
A
we've
poll?
had that, and we're gonna have, it's gonna be out tonight on Channel 12 and Channel 6 and a couple other ones, as far as that. But also, I also heard some comments that we have this was very short turnaround for this particular, workshop today. So we had a couple of days notice to the people that we're having this workshop, and here's one of the reasons why we need, to expand that a little bit to get more people involved.
How about if I do this? For all you people in Sebastian, we're getting ready to raise your cost, not only
That'll get their attention.
not only from $14 to $27, we're getting ready to raise your cost by $100 a year over what it could be. If you don't like it, contact the city.
That's a little bit out there.
So become vocal.
Yes.
I mean,
We had some great points presented tonight.
Yes,
And we
absolutely.
really did have some great points presented tonight, and I don't want us to walk away from that, nor to make the decision lightly.
maybe a postcard just notifying people what's going on, a quick blurb of the rates maybe, and I don't know, you don't get it out there before Wednesday, but maybe for our next council meeting, get it out there and let people know, here's what's happening, here's what's going on. And if you're concerned, come to our next council meeting, blah, blah, blah.
Do you want that sent to the 12,000 or to the 1,500?
You know,
No, not 12,000.
I mean,
I need a little bit of clear
I get it.
direction.
we only have
I know.
room in here for about 150 people, you know. So,
I mean, another survey
Paul, I don't
monkey?
know, but we need
I know, but
more information. In some way or another, we need to generate
know.
something, I think.
I mean, I mean, if you think it's hard to come up with an answer, come up with an answer to Mr. Carlisle. I don't know, what is the answer to that? What is our sample? Is our sample 2,000 people, or is our sample 5,000 people, or is it 1,500 people? What do you all feel? Bob, what you think?
Survey?
1,500.
I don't know. You have any thoughts, Mr. Carlisle?
Don't get that crew rowdy over there.
No.
We have an officer in this room.
So,
No, whatever we're looking at, we're talking about obviously an expense to the city, and we're talking about time, a delay as well. So, give us your best assessment of what you're hearing from us right now.
so I can tell you, the process we use for the citizen engagement survey, as I was saying, we had to stuff an envelope with a return envelope. On that survey, there was a link to go to take the survey online. I think we got 5 online. We got 718 mailed back to us out of 1,500.
It's impressive.
And it took months. So we didn't send them to everyone, it's 1,500 random houses. So we got, and the 718, according to statistical average, was a statistical certainty of what people thought of the city. So if you were to get back 1,000, if you sent out 1,500 and you got back 1,000, but remember, that took months to get those back. And I think we did only get like 5 online. So the survey, you can send out a Survey Monkey or a link to Survey Monkey on our Facebook page, and you sign on it and you can do the survey online. Survey Monkey's been done for a lot of different things, but that's an online. We put a Survey Monkey link on our Facebook page, and Sebastian Daly, if they would so choose, put a Survey Monkey link on their article and have them respond by a certain amount of time. I know not everybody looks at social media. I know not everybody reads the paper, but I think in a timing, we would have a better opportunity to get something back that way than snail mail.
I agree.
Right. Agreed. Okay.
I mean, through social media, you could hit up all the PTAs of the schools. That covers hundreds of other families that I have not seen in either meeting.
Right, yeah, but the other problem is there, again, we have a lot of people that are not on social
Yeah.
media, seniors that are not on there in different communities. How are we going to get this information out to them so that they can, give us their response?
So again, our goal is to try to reach that 1,000 people to get back to us. You're not gonna get to everybody. Just
Right.
like the random survey for the citizen engagement didn't go to 12,000 people. At some point, if you wanna get to everybody, you've got months and months and months. If you wanna get to a statistical certainty, that can be turned around in weeks probably.
What are the rules on our reverse 911 call system?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Everbridge, we use Everbridge and put out
Yes.
alerts. I'd have to see.
Is there any reason why we couldn't do an Everbridge call out on this?
We need a
It's
mass
only gonna be for
text.
those people who signed up.
Well, I understand, yeah, okay, all right.
Do we have any idea what that number is? I mean, I know I'm asking something never even.
A lot of the newer people haven't signed up because their social media, they don't sign up. They don't sit in the office with their phone beeping every 5 minutes from alerts, but, I mean, I can see what we can do with Everbridge along with, you know, a link to a survey.
Because I know, we're not gonna solve this tonight, maybe you can come back on Wednesday with some information
Yeah.
about that, about how you can do that. And then we can decide on Wednesday what we're gonna do as far as the moving forward is concerned with it.
Yeah. I like the idea. I think that's probably the right way to go. So then you can come back with some information with us. I know it's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that we need to get done, but.
I hope you're not anticipating that we would have the survey results back by Wednesday.
Wednesday night, survey results, yes.
Really? Tuesday.
No,
I was thinking tomorrow.
You'll get the two that respond.
We'll get a survey of 5 by Wednesday.
No, whenever you get the survey back, but we need to know, where we're going and how we're gonna do
Well, I have
that
to-
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Mayor, I have to put a cutoff date, because if we're gonna try to put it on the 22nd, then I've gotta have it the week before that. Sorry, Mayor?
No, I agree with you 100%, I know.
So
yeah.
I have to have it the week before the 22nd, so, that's gonna be still a short time frame for people to get out. And we gotta the survey is gonna be, check the box, which one do you want? And that, you know, with a brief explanation, I think that's, if you want quick turnaround, that's the only advice I can give you, and I'm not so sure how that's gonna go.
All right.
Actually, as far as turnaround's concerned, you just need to have a conversation with Waste Management about that process, because they're the people we're holding up here. They need to order trucks, they need to do things, so we need to try to make sure that we get this done as quickly as we can in order to facilitate that. I mean, you know, that's.
And as Councilmember McParland said, I will have a conversation with them to see if there's some intermediate thing we can do between now and the 2025. I don't know if there is, but I mean, it's worth a conversation. Worst they could say is no, but
Right.
if you don't ask, it's a no.
That's right.
That's okay. They haven't sat down in the room and negotiated with me yet. It doesn't matter. Their no here doesn't mean anything until you sit down and talk to me, so.
All right, so it looks like we're not gonna be making a final decision on this Wednesday
Well,
night.
we-
We're gonna
Well,
have
I'm not gonna say
information
that, because
come
it's on the
back.
agenda.
We can't make that decision tonight.
Well, that's
I would
fine.
not, I would not have that discussion tonight.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about this Wednesday night and see how we all feel. Maybe we'll feel different by then.
Maybe.
Maybe our inboxes will
But,
really blow up.
we're done. You understand what we're looking for, right?
Except for the conversation you had me talk about with the franchise fee. But let's get the survey done first.
Oh, yeah, let's do that part, yeah, absolutely. All right, so, there being, no further business, we're gonna go ahead and, close this meeting. Thank you, sir.